I'm Certified Master Chef Gerald Ford, and today I'm going to be preparing, butchering a classical poulet sauté. If you want to follow along, from Le Guide Culinaire, page 381, number 3181. To me, Le Guide Culinaire is the number one source for all of our textbooks today, and it is the authority on building flavor and layering complexity and depth into dishes. So there's a lot of technique that's been lost over time, and there's a lot of confusion about what's inside of that book. I think that confusion's due to the fact that majority of the time the recipes are interpreted and not followed. Now the book is meant to be followed in its most classical sense. One of the number one culprits of confusion when it comes to talking about classical cuisine is the poulet sauté. So like I said, we're going to spend some time with a little bit of butchery on this today. The poulet sauté, if you're not familiar with it, is a classical preparation where a whole chicken, is cut in a specific way into 4 equal portions to be served Russian style, tableside. There are a list of wonderful garniture and seasoning ingredients in the book, and it's a really cool cooking preparation if you've never done it before. It's a great way to create flavor and layer depth and really cook a chicken like you've never cooked it before. This is uncommon in the way that we cook and in our restaurants today, but that doesn't mean that it's obsolete at all. Flavor will always be a valuable commodity. Auguste Escoffier, the grandfather of flavor. Most all of our textbooks and most all of our techniques have all come from that book, Le Guide Culinaire. And so I think it necessary to pay a little homage and look at some of the more classical techniques and how they bring us into the realm that we are today. Building flavor, layering flavor, getting complexities. That's it's hard to beat Le Guide for those particular things. It's the origin for stacking flavors and getting complexity. Escoffier was way ahead of his time in the fact that he was about 100% utilization. And so because of that, we're going to talk about how to cut this chicken. So here we have it straight from the book. The dissection of a chicken for sauté is carried out in the following manner. Clean and singe the chicken. Cut the skin round each leg. Turn each leg back and cut through the joint where it meets the carcass and remove them. Cut through the joints between the thighs and drumstick. Separate the lower part of the legs from the drumstick above the joint. Remove the bone, the femur, from the thighs just above the lower joint. Trim the lower part of the leg below the joint and cut off the claws. Cut off the winglets and remove the pinion. Cut along the sides of the breast and remove the wing portions, cutting through the joint of the carcass. Remove the center part of the breast from the carcass and divide it in half along the center if a large bird, or leave whole if smaller. Lastly, cut the carcass into pieces and trim neatly along both sides. Now, before we get into the cutting, I want to talk about my tools. I have a cutting board set on a non-stick mat. I've got my firm boning knife, right, nice and sharp. I have a chef's knife so that I can cut through the carcass and the bones as necessary. And then I have my tweezers so that I can remove the tendons from the legs. I have my chicken here on ice. I have a perforated pan for my portions, also on ice. And I have a 9th pan for any trim and scrap, as well as a bench knife to scrape and a pan for that to rest in. You want to start always with the chicken by washing it, and then, as it used to be necessary, singeing it. Now, for a classical poulet sauté, you're going to want to get a chicken with the feet still attached. So this is a beautiful 4-pound farm chicken that has the feet still attached and a little bit of the neck there, so we can cut down and take that out. First things first though, want to make sure he's nice and dry. And then we're going to remove the neck, pull the skin back, cut the neck, take the wishbone out, as is always relevant. If you've never removed the wishbone from a chicken prior to roasting, I recommend you give it a try. It's just a nicer way to prepare a chicken. Sometimes it breaks, sometimes it doesn't. But you're going to remove that by cutting a V at the top and pulling that out. Next, we're going to cut off the tail. That can also be used, that can be used for stock. And then we're going to start our first cut in the offhand by separating the leg and thigh from the rest of the bird. Come back, cut into the oyster. I use my thumb to peel the oyster out of the carcass, and then straight down and off. We have our first leg. Turn the bird. Where the leg meets the carcass, split the skin. Then I bend the leg back, split open the joint, bring my knife to the oyster, peel the oyster, and then cut down and remove that from the chicken. We're going to set the crown off to the side. Now, for the leg, we're going to find the seam between where the leg and the thigh meet, cut right through it, and then remove the thigh bone and any excess skin from the thigh. It's a really beautiful, fresh, pink farm chicken. You can see that in the color. You want to make sure you get all the cartilage out. And then you have your first thigh. This is why I keep my scraper on my board, so I can get things nice and clean, not make a mess. Next, I'm going to cut the cartilage on the leg side. And then just below the knuckle, I'm going to cut the skin on the leg. Then I'm going to apply pressure to pop back the claw and remove the tendon and the knuckle all in one pull. I use my pliers or my tweezers to get any of the other little tendons out. This will help make this piece much more enjoyable. And if you've never done it for a Thanksgiving turkey, it's a really nice thing to do. I'll pull the meat down on the bone, and then I will take the heel of the knife and a sharp hit to cut through. That way the bone is nice and clean. And that cleans that up. We'll repeat for the other side. Find the road map, cut through and separate. And then pull the knife down and around the thigh bone. Make sure all the cartilage is out. And I like to use my boning knife for this as opposed to my chef's knife, because I feel like I can do much more precise, detailed work. Now again, we split the skin towards the end, bend the leg back. And as you can tell, we pull the tendons out. If the bone broke in a funny way, we can go back, clean that up. Then a little quick cleanup on the board. Now we move on to the crown. All right, first things first, we're going to grab the wing, cut just below the shoulder and around. And then we're going to twist and pull that wing back to remove, just like we did with the bottom part of the leg, the winglet and the pinion, the tip and the wing. So let's do that again real quick. Just above the shoulder, all the way around the drum. Then we're going to grab the wing tip and the winglet, and we're going to twist and snap those off nice and clean. So this is the wing tip and the winglet. This is what's known as the pinion. This is also known as a flat. Those can go for another preparation. We're going to come back and clean that up just after we cut the supreme. Same thing on the other side. Going to twist that back. Come on. And then off it goes. Now this is probably where this preparation, where there's the majority of the confusion when it comes to butchering a poulet sauté. Now, this classical dish, in order to be prepared properly, requires being butchered properly. And this is probably the number one place where things go wrong. So we're going to find the center of the breast from the middle, the sternum, to the outside, and we're going to cut along that long part of the breast. You know you've lined it up right when you cut through the shoulder and you cut along the side of the carcass. Right through the shoulder. Right, so you don't want to cut through any of that, but you want to cut along it. Same thing on the other side. Find the center, cut through and down. Then through the shoulder, and you have supreme number 2. Now, we nip that bone, cut it nice and clean. Same thing with the other side. Now we have our final 2 pieces. We're going to split the carcass by cutting through the rib bones and down and through the shoulders, or what's left of them. Going to make sure that there's skin still on the breast and clean up any excess. Now the breast gets cut in 2. This is our last 2 portions. And then the carcass gets cleaned up a little bit. And cut in 3. Never chopping. Nice easy cuts. Most of the time. So now you can check your butchery of the chicken when it comes to the reassembly for cooking. Normally, this dish would be cooked in an oval pan, and it will be displayed in an oval pan as well. When cut properly, The 3 pieces of the backbone will be arranged on the bottom of the platter. The 2 pieces of breast that came from the sternum on top. 2 supremes from the outsides. The 2 thighs. And then the 2 legs. This helps us guide it into the pan by telling us how best to cook it. We start by cooking the legs first, then the thighs, then the middle pieces of bone-in breast, and then the supremes last. The backbone pieces get cooked in the pan as well, but they contribute to the sauce. Once cooked, they get arranged back on the platter with the appropriate garnish as listed in the book, because there's tons of beautiful preparations for chicken that are in the book. And I highly recommend that you at least check out some of the garnishes and flavor combinations. Then after cooking, it gets arranged back on the platter just like this with its appropriate garnish and sauce. Then on the table side, it gets Russian served. This supreme goes with one of the drums. This thigh goes with a breast piece with the sternum and next, the supreme with this drum, this thigh with this piece of breast. These back pieces won't go with this dish. These all then get the sauce and the garnish as appropriate by the table. This goes back to the kitchen and then it's done. So this is the butchery for a classic poulet sauté and how you turn one chicken into 4 even portions. Happy cooking.
What's your mission? What's your focus? What are you aiming for? Are you looking for Michelin stars? Are you looking to build your team? Are you looking to advance your career? You want to pass the Master Chef exam? Are you looking for a conversation just to get a nudge in the right direction? Chefs waste tremendous amounts of time trying to figure things out. I have pulled together the best of the lessons that I've learned over my 30 years of professional cooking and working with mentors, master chefs, culinary Olympians, and Michelin-starred chefs in order to teach you strategies, tactics, and tools so that you don't have to. If you're not sure where to start, know that I coach, teach, and train high-performance chefs to fulfill their highest purpose. Follow the link to learn more.